welcome to this week's episode of our podcast, Just Us Being Us. I am your host, Adela Relentless, and I'm here with my two co-hosts.
I am Bugby, and I choked just before we started this, and I'm still slightly dying.
And I am Red Rebecca, the sickly but happy one.
And I'm still normal.
Maybe.
Compared to you two, it will remain that way.
Hey, majority rules, man.
Right?
I guess in that case, it does kind of make me the odd one out.
Yeah, we're getting somewhere.
No, I'm
Slowly.
going with I'm still normal. All right. So, anyways, so today's episode, as you guys can tell, we are doing yet another virtual platform. We were kind of hoping to do an in-person one this weekend, but Miss Red Rebecca over there had to go get herself quarantined. So
Yeah.
Here we are.
yeah. So
Here we are.
as much as me and Bugby are here together, we are with Miss Red Rebecca in spirit and staying as far away as possible from her because we don't
Yep.
want to get sick.
Absolutely not.
don't
She can
blame
keep
you.
it. I don't want it.
Yeah, I literally have work travel starting Monday. I do not need to no, I'm good. I don't need to be dealing with airplanes and a sickness.
Yeah, although I'm pretty sure in airplanes where I got mine.
I was going to say, do you want to share how you ended up with the Rona?
Well, I was surprised with a trip by a lovely friend who worked with my husband to keep it under wraps until I was actually at the airport that I was going to go to MegaCon Orlando to meet Neil Newbin.
Yeah.
And
Ah!
dude, ah,
Somebody's
wa-
dreams came true.
ah,
This
I
is
made
why
such
I
a fool of
asked.
myself.
This is why.
I made such a fool of myself. I mean, it was lovely to meet him, but you guys, I stepped on his shoe.
And I'm sure he thought nothing of it.
I apologized profusely, and he just looked down at me and was like, "You have nothing to apologize for, because you guys, you're so tall."
I didn't realize how tall he was until I saw the pictures of you with him, and I was like, my goodness, he is much taller than I thought
is
he
tall.
was.
So I had no choice but to look up and go, "I'm so sorry."
Which now makes me wonder if Astarion is actually supposed to be that tall.
Yeah, no, I think Larian said that he wasn't.
Aw.
He had they had a tweet about how short he is.
How short is he?
I don't know. I will have to verify, but I want to say it's like maybe 5'9", but don't quote me on that.
I mean, that's still taller than me, so
Yeah,
I'm
it's
okay
taller
with
than
that
me.
because I can get all the forehead kisses.
Honestly,
See?
5'9", that's what, 7 inches taller than me? I'm good with that.
I wanna be my big lady Tav giving him the forehead kisses.
He deserves it. He truthfully
deserves all the
deserves
forehead
it.
kisses.
He
All the
deserves
forehead
all the
kisses.
forehead kisses.
And to be the little spoon every now and then, you know?
Yes, yeah, I agree. Very much so. Okay, so before we get sidetracked on Astarion here, today's episode, we are going to be talking about how to get started with therapy. So this actually came up as a very interesting conversation between me and my husband, where he was kind of talking to me about the podcast and kind of a few of the things that um, we mentioned on the show. And he is actually looking to start therapy as well to kind of go over just some, mental health things that he's dealing with on a personal level. And it was really funny because as we were kind of talking about it, he started asking me questions, and one of the questions that he brought up was, how do you even get connected with a therapist? And I kind of looked at him and thought, oh my gosh, like we talk about it all the time on our podcast, but yet I bet that's a question a lot of people have is, how do I even get started? And I immediately looked at him and said, well, A, that's a really good topic for our podcast. So we're going to talk about that next episode. And B, here's how. So for me personally, it was a little bit different. So as you guys know, I have been through therapy multiple times in my life. Obviously first started with high school, which my parents actually were the ones that found the therapist for me. Back then, I didn't do it myself. But as I got older, how I came across my therapist was Google. Literally, it is the best tool that you can find out there. Um, if you're a parent looking for a therapist for your child, you actually can talk to school counselors about that when they need something more specialized than what the school can offer you. And a lot of the times, the school therapists will actually have recommendations of places that you can go to basically get your child any kind of therapy, really.
Yeah.
And when that process takes place, one of the things that you can do is you literally just call the therapist office that they give you the connections for, and then you let them know kind of what's going on, and they actually will connect you with a therapist that they feel can help based off of the situation. So that's one way of going about it. The other way, if it's for yourself, in my case, I literally just Googled the therapy. But what I wound up doing is I wound up going through BetterHelp. So for me, obviously, listening to other podcasts and things like that, that advertisement tends to pop up a lot, not to mention social media, things like that. So the process that I went through with BetterHelp was actually just a simple survey. They actually ask you all of the questions beforehand, and it was super simple, really straightforward. And then as soon as I completed the survey, my information got sent to their system, and then I immediately got an email afterwards saying like, "Hey, this is the therapist that we're connecting you with." And I did the official first one-on-one with the therapist, which of course the first session is always the hardest.
Every time.
Every
Every
time.
time. Which I have a really funny story about that we'll tell in a minute. But they after that, I did the first initial session, and I've been in therapy ever since. So that was one way to go about it. I don't know about how the other two did it, so I'm gonna let them speak to that one.
Okay, so for me, I will say, as far as therapy for a child, use your school resources for sure. I am using that for my daughter right now, actually. She's going through some changes and some hard times, and I wish that I had more opportunity to talk to people when I was growing up. No, nothing on my parents or anything. They did really well, and they actually did put me in therapy, but at the same time I wish when I was younger I had a little bit more of a place to go, I guess. I don't know. I just want to make sure she has help and can talk to somebody outside of her situation that she's going through. And so I have her seeing her counselor at school. Um, Luckily, that has seemed to be enough for her at this time. But I know going forward, if we need to do something different, that her counselor will let us know and direct us in the right direction or office of wherever we need to go.
Hmm.
For me, I started out with BetterHelp as well. I did do therapy as a child, but again, my parents figured that out for me, not me. Um, but I started out with BetterHelp mainly because I am so introverted that I could not bring myself to go and find a therapist. Doing it on the internet seemed so much better. And if you ever wondered how introverted I am, that's it. When the gas pump at the thing says "see cashier for receipt," you just drive away.
Nope, on out of there. Yep.
Bye. And if the card doesn't work, you just drive to a different gas station. Anyway, um, but yes, I started out with BetterHelp, and it was fine. The therapist that I was matched with, I felt like I didn't have a very good connection with,
Mm,
um, and they do have the option to change your therapist, and that is a route I could have gone, but I felt like I was going to need something a bit more long term, and
yeah.
I was hoping that then my health insurance was going to kick in and help with the cost of it. That wasn't really an option with BetterHelp, so paying for it out of pocket just wasn't something that really worked well for me. So Google,
Google
that's where
is
I went.
key.
Google, Google has the answer to everything. You should
Literally
know
just
this.
type in therapist. That is
Therapy.
going to, yeah, therapy. Like that
Yeah,
will give you top search results, or therapy near me. I
yep,
mean,
that's what I did. Therapy near me. I can't talk. Um, but yeah, so I searched that, and then the big thing for me, I really dug in and did some research on the different therapists that showed up. Mainly because since I had done therapy already, I kind of knew what I was dealing with, and I wanted to find somebody that had a background in dealing with those things so that way I could get the best help for myself. So that's another tip, I think. Obviously, if you're not sure what's going on with you in a mental way, it might be kind of difficult for that. But I feel like we all have somewhat of an idea of what might be causing things. Um, so I found somebody that I really thought was going to help trigger, or not trigger, target. Yes, I did take my meds this morning before
They're in the
anybody
same
asked.
realm of things, you know.
Have I had caffeine? No, this is the first caffeine I've had. I'm working on it, guys.
Billy.
Which is hilarious because she slept in this morning versus
I
me
did.
had to get up at like freaking 7:30.
Yeah, it's
Nice.
fine. Things are fine. Um, but yes, I found a therapist that I thought would be best to target what I needed help with. And she was absolutely wonderful. Although I am very sad because I went to my last session with her last week,
Oh.
and she is retiring and she's no longer going to be doing therapy. And I cried
As you
almost
tend to do in therapy sessions.
Yeah.
almost more than I did in the first session that we had together. It was bad.
I'm so
Um,
sorry.
so I am currently going to have to find a new therapist. She, of course, did give me some recommendations, and I am looking into those recommendations. But I still haven't found a new therapist yet, and I don't think I'm in a place where I can just cold turkey therapy. So here we go again. I'm gonna have to do that first session all over again.
So because of that note, I'm gonna wind up telling the story really quick before Red Rebecca can talk about like therapy for her side of things because it kind of ties into what Bugby just went through. So, speaking of last therapy sessions, my son, who has been with the same therapist for, I want to say like 3 years now,
It's been a while.
finally had like his last therapy session with her. And it was the parents of my son, like in the room, and basically it was kind of it was a little funny because the therapist like pulled us all in there, and this isn't really so much the funny part, but she had to let us know, it's time that your son sees somebody that is a little more focused on or specializes in his like mental health, because he's getting to a point where he doesn't enjoy coming here anymore. He is kind of struggling with the therapy that we're going through. So it's time that I recommend him to somebody more specialized that can help him now in the more advanced stages of what he needs in order to help with his mental health. And I felt so bad because she is the sweetest person I have ever met. I absolutely loved her with my son, and she started crying because she was sad, that she had to end his therapy, and she was really heartfelt about the fact that she really didn't want him to start hating therapy, which is why she was recommending that he start seeing somebody more specialized to get him the help that he needs. And for the first time ever in any therapy session, I was handing the tissue box to the therapist. And I was like, well, this is a turn of events I never saw coming. And I just couldn't stop laughing after the whole scenario because I was like, this is the first time I've ever attended a therapy session where I'm giving the therapist the tissue box. Like,
Yeah.
it was just so weird to me. I was like, and it was the most awkward situation too, because I literally like saw the tissue boxes like on the side table that was like next to me on the couch, and I just kind of like coyly picked them up and was like, here you go. Like she was like, thank you. She was like, and she even made a comment too where she was like, so that's what it feels like.
Yes, that's what it feels like. Yeah, my whole last session was a roller coaster because honestly, I was feeling really good going into it, and it was one of those times where I'm like, I don't know what we're gonna talk about when we get in here, but she always digs something up, so I'm not worried about it. And I get in there and she's asking how I'm doing. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing really good. She's asking about all the changes and things and going through all that. And she's like, you've been doing a really good job with all of these changes. And then she's like, and I'm retiring. And I'm like, huh? Granted, she didn't lay it out there quite like that, but that's kind of how it went. And then I spent 30 minutes crying. So, it's fine.
Oh,
Absolutely destroyed me, but it's fine.
yeah, and
We're
that
gonna
can't
make
be
it.
easy on her end either.
No, I'm sure it's not, but it's okay. I will find somebody new, and everything will be fine.
It's
And
fine. Everything's fine.
that's what
Dumpster
I'm
fire. Everything's fine.
Yeah, no,
that's
this
what
is
I'm
fine.
going to keep repeating until everything is actually fine.
This is great. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Everything's
just
fine.
just keep that fire blazing around you. It's totally fine. Everything's fine.
In my head, SpongeBob is looking for his name in some random file drawer, and he can't find it.
What's my name? Someone tell me my
What's my
name.
Oh my
Everything on
gosh.
fire.
And this is the point where, depending on the age group of our audience, they're literally going like, "What are they talking about? What is
Yeah.
SpongeBob?"
Yeah. There's gonna be like the older generation that's like, what? Huh? And then there's gonna be our generation that's like, huh, yeah.
Yeah, I
And then
get
there's
it.
gonna be even the younger generation that we have that might be watching this, they're gonna be like, huh?
Huh?
Like, what's SpongeBob?
Well, they
Or
might know
what's
what
that
SpongeBob
episode of
is, but they
SpongeBob?
don't.
Yeah, or what's that episode of SpongeBob would be
Yeah.
more accurate.
Anyway,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Red
Okay.
Rebecca,
Yep.
your turn. Let's hear it.
Hi.
Yeah. Let's ask the one person that doesn't go to therapy
That's
on
not
how to
in
find a therapist.
Ugh, I can tell you how to not find one.
Avoid all problems, read a book, and maybe occasionally lose yourself in a video game.
Read a book. Read a book, you know? No.
Books fix everything. It's fine.
Yeah, no, for me, it would be video games, mainly Astarion. Astarion fixes everything.
Fair.
Which, really funny thing. So I was on TikTok the other day and I was like going through my like exploration tab of it. And then, of course, Astarion things are populated all over my TikTok feed. And literally it was like one of those reels that was like just pure photos and it was like nothing but photos of Astarion, but then the background song is literally a song called Will You Be My Therapy? And I was like, I have never related to a TikTok reel so much in my life right now.
Yep. He is very much your therapy right now.
He is so my therapy. I'm not even
Astarion
ashamed.
whenever I want to. I swear
I can't. I openly admit that I will never be able to quit Astarion.
How does every single episode we do end with Astarion? Like,
hello. Well, I'm here.
My kid, all right, judges the crap out of me for anything Astarion related. Like anytime I mention Astarion, she sees me watching Neil's stream, she's like, "Really? Really?" But ever since she got an autograph from Neil, she's like, "Astarion."
oh, now she loves him.
And so I asked him, I'm like, "Oh, so now he's cute because you got an autograph from him?" Yeah.
Yeah. I love her so much.
Oh my god, she's the greatest.
It's so funny, and so now I get to pick on her for it. But
You have gone to therapy. You might not be in it now, but you
Which here's the disclaimer of our episode: we are not professionals.
We're not professionals. And I am not proud of my lack of therapy, but I guess I can kind of explain why I struggle to go for, those out there who might be facing the same thing. So I did go once, and it was to get my ADHD diagnosis. And even that was like a monumental thing for me because mental health problems do run in my family, much to the detriment of my family. And it's part of the reason why a lot of my family doesn't talk, and a lot of the reason for my issues. And growing up, my way of breaking the cycle and getting through it was just ignoring it. I would be like, look at me. I am a functional adult and I got here and I'm
Hmm.
fine. That must mean that I'm strong. And then the
Yep.
more I realized, oh, maybe I do have some problems. And I'm like, but if
Yep.
I acknowledge these problems, then I'm
Then they're
like,
real.
then they're real. And then I'm like the people in my family that have these problems. And then here it
Yeah.
goes a cycle all over again. So I was very nervous to even admit that I probably needed to go to therapy. And so when I finally did break and go to therapy to get my ADHD diagnosis, the person that I went to was horrific. Just so horrible. I had, said, yes, I am prone to some emotional outbursts that I feel stem from ADHD. And they go, oh, well, emotional outbursts, you're a woman, that's nothing new.
What?
I would have got up and walked out.
Yeah,
I
same
was
here.
like, I was like, my first experience with therapy, and you're just gonna harp on me for being an emotional woman. Okay. So
Oh my god. Was that under military?
no, no, it
Oh,
was it
okay.
was off base. The on base mental health isn't very great, at least not in my experience, because I actually did go to on base therapy. It's not really therapy, but it was this mental health, and
Counseling.
Mhm.
I went once while my husband was overseas in Turkey for a year because I was raising a 2-year-old by myself. I was working and doing school and just panicking, and I was like, I need to go talk to someone because I'm not feeling great, and they're like, just breathe, just breathe. It'll be fine. And it wasn't like a chance for me to vent and talk about it and maybe talk about more problems that I might have. It was like we just kind of want you out of here. So
Hmm.
here's a
Oof.
pamphlet.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's not a good experience at all.
Yeah.
no.
So
So
the biggest Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, there's nothing absolutely wrong with going to therapy, and honestly, I probably should go to therapy. It's just about finding the right fit and just making that
Mhm.
first step. And so,
Yeah.
like, I'm not proud that I don't go. Like, it's not a source of pride for me. It's kind of a mix of I'm not sure if I'm ready, and I also enjoy my free time, and I don't want anything taken away my free time.
Yeah. I had to deal with that a lot too, with being ready to talk about a lot of things.
Hmm.
Um, and that's something I told Adela several times. I'm like, I don't know, I don't think I'm ready to deal with this yet. Because
Yeah.
And the biggest advice I gave them, which I also had to follow too, was that you're never going to be ready to talk about them. In
yep,
all honesty, you really are not. And there's a lot of things that I also felt the same way where, and Bugby can vouch for this. I came up with excuse after excuse after excuse. I don't have time. I don't have the finances to be able to pay for it out of pocket. I don't have the ability to want to talk about this stuff. I hate emotions. You know what? I can't find a therapist I really like. Yeah, they were all just like constant excuses. And
yep,
we got to a point where she was like, I'm going to take your credit card if you don't sign up for
I did.
therapy. And I was like, okay,
I told
great.
her, I was like, I'm gonna sign you up if you don't sign yourself up.
Yeah, but luckily enough it got to a point, and so I'm gonna have a very real moment with everybody here where the way that I wound up signing up for therapy was a very rough moment of my life, and it was and to be honest, I'm in therapy right now because of a lot of stress that's going on at work that I personally am not handling mentally very well, and so I needed therapy, and I kept pushing it off. And the thing that sucks about me is because I don't do medication, and I do and I've done a lot of therapy in the past. I'm very self-aware. And so when I know a breakdown's coming on, when I know that my mental state is starting to get a little bit unstable, I'm fully aware of that and I know that it's coming. And so I try to do little things and run through my exercises that I've learned in the past. And it got to a point where none of that was working for me. And so when the breakdown finally hit, I literally had come home. I walked. So my house, the way that it works is we have the garage obviously attached to the house, and then I entered in through my garage and I just fell on the floor and started crying. And I was hysterical. I was like 4 hours worth of crying, like cried myself to sleep that night, and I was on my knees just crying my eyes out. And nothing had happened in between the car and me walking into the house. I lost my composure. I just couldn't do it. And the stress had gotten to me so bad. It had eaten away at me so bad. I was running literally on empty that I just fell on my knees and started crying.
Mm.
And so that night, it was just, I was inconsolable. So the next day, that was the point. I had finally reached out to Bugby and I had let her know kind of what had happened the night before. And
Yeah.
I was like, I'm done. I'm signing up for therapy. I was like, that was bad.
Yeah.
And obviously, I was not in a good mental place. And the reality is, I was questioning a lot of my existence and why I was even doing any of this. And I was very grounded. And honestly, I was not at the point of self harm kind of thoughts, but it was questioning why I was going through a lot of this. It was a lot of self doubt. It was a lot of just wondering what the purpose of everything was, me doubting whether I was good enough to keep going and things like that. So the very next day I signed up for BetterHelp, and again, not sponsored. But it it walked me through the survey questions, and basically it then connected me with my therapist, who I love, by the way. Like, she is fantastic. And then what wound up happening was, the day of my very first therapy session, I was already coming up with excuses not to attend my first therapy session. And
She
since
was.
mine is virtual, I didn't actually have to go anywhere. I just had to get on my phone and do like a video call. And so I was already coming up with excuses. So Bugby, my brother, and my husband were all like, nope, you're doing this. So they literally like locked me in a room and were like texting me on the dot, like, okay, you've got therapy in 15 minutes, you better be ready to do this. Okay, go sit in that room, you're not leaving until you do your therapy. Like, oh my gosh, it was like they held me accountable to it. And of course, very first therapy session, I bawled my eyes out, but then I walked out of there and I honestly felt like a weight had just been
Mm-hmm.
lifted off of my shoulders. Like, there was such a sense of relief that took place. I couldn't explain it. And like, even after just that first therapy session, nothing technically got fixed,
Yeah.
but it felt like I had just let go of everything I had been holding on to. And as much as the tears sucked, and as much as it sucked having to talk about everything I didn't want to talk about, it was such a weight lifting moment
Mhm.
for me that I was like,
Yep.
okay, I guess I'll continue with this. Like, it
Mhm.
Yeah.
was just,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
what?
I had that same when I went to my
Mhm.
first one. It was rough, and especially when I found my last therapist, because it was in person, which I feel is a lot more vulnerable, but that is what I needed at that time. I needed something that was in person because I felt like the connection was lost over a video call. They couldn't see my body language because I can mask this part of me pretty
Mhm.
well, but the rest of me, my foot shaking or me fiddling with whatever this is. Rebecca, what's in your hand?
Actually, nothing. I was playing with my nails.
What? Oh,
Yeah.
that's an ADHD thing. But anyway,
Yeah. I
whatever
was like
this
grabbing my
is, I don't,
nails.
it's like a spacer thing. I don't know. I've been playing with that. So those little things are tells that I have that are just missed in a video call or a phone call. And for me, I knew I needed somebody that could see me and all of me to really understand what was happening, which is why I personally prefer to have somebody that's in person. But that doesn't mean that that's right for everybody.
Mhm.
That's what's right for me. But when I went to that first session with her, it was supposed to be just a 45-minute to an hour-long session, I was there for almost 2 hours.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And she sat there and she just let me release everything. And she would ask me questions about different things, and I would release those. And I didn't even know that I had those feelings or thoughts. And I
It
would
is
just,
amazing how that can happen in a therapy session. Like, I will start on one topic, and then all of a sudden, before I know it, I'm talking about like some deep trauma, and I'm just
yep,
like, how did I get here?
yeah, yeah. But after that session, I felt exhausted for one, but also relieved, and I just lighter, and I slept so good that night. So good. I remember sleeping so good that night.
You know what's really funny is that I had a really like weird moment when I was playing Baldur's Gate the other day. Shocker. um, but I was almost debating on changing Vincent's persona because I was like, oh my God. I was like, Vincent's like a tadpole. I was like,
Yeah.
he's literally like a tadpole. I was
I
like, I should really make Vincent just a tadpole. Except I don't want my like persona character to be this ugly little worm.
It's a little
I
worm.
think a sad panda's a lot
Yeah.
cuter.
It is, but like literally, that's literally what I equated it to because, like, in your head, like you have this issue, you want it to go away, but then at in a weird way, it like changes you, and it's like sometimes it's a good change, other times it's like I really can't wait till you get out of my head, and it's just
You
yeah,
know,
but
I'm sitting here and people who have not played Baldur's Gate are like, what in the fork is she talking about?
That
A
sounds like a
tadpole?
personal problem because it sounds like they should have gotten on that train several months ago.
Exactly. Because I mean, the fact that half of our podcasts always wind up with a Starian as part of the topic is just like you need to know what we're talking about. Which
Why is this so hard for me to do?
I don't understand. It's not that hard. It's like,
Oh, I got it.
oh, see, you guys do it differently. Oh, you do it. Okay, yeah, no, I just do it this way.
No,
You
you
do it
gotta
the
do it.
old people way,
I
Yeah.
Bella.
do. I am also the oldest one here. It's not that shocking.
I always try to do these fingers and like this, and that's why it's these fingers.
Yeah.
It's still very difficult for me to do.
For those of you that could not see that from the video, they were trying finger heart things again. Emily's little heart is what we're going to call that.
We're gonna call it Emily's heart.
Emily's heart. That's what we're going to call it. They're holding up Emily's heart right now because that totally doesn't sound right.
For you.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, so in all honesty, I think really so really funny story about that too. So somebody had actually reached out to me um on our Discord, and they had told me that like they had just found the podcast, and basically they wanted to they were listening to it, and they were like, oh my gosh, like this podcast is amazing. They were like, I listened to it for like 4 hours, and they were like, you guys are awesome, you're hilarious. And I was like, oh, thank you so much for the support. And then literally followed up with, I think I'm gonna start playing Baldur's Gate now.
That is our
always
goal.
the answer.
Our
No matter
goal
the
is for
question.
you to be okay with your mental health and be okay in life and play Baldur's Gate.
Live, laugh, Astarian.
Baldur's
Yes,
Gate.
exactly. Astarian approves.
Y'all
The Astarian of
Astarian.
this group approves.
I'm his
Careful.
favorite snack
Have
today.
that. I'm his juice box.
I just have a green cup today.
And it's because I stole her Astarian cup.
Mm-hmm. She did steal my Astarian cup.
Bestie status.
Yeah.
I have a nickname
the
for
only
this
one
cup
that can
now,
do it.
but I don't think I can say it on the podcast, so I'll refrain.
Yeah, probably. Let's leave that for the Discord channel.
Which you should join if you're interested in finding that out.
Very much so. So it was really funny because then that person, I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, well, I'd love to play with you. turns out that they were on console. So then I was like, okay, well, at that point we can't play together. But now I'm actually doing my best to like help them like walk through the game. And so the other night we hung out and he was streaming it for me and I was like watching it via Twitch and because obviously there's a delay between what he's actually doing and then the Twitch stream. I would like direct him to go a certain way and then he would like already be going that way, but by the time I see it I was like, no, turn around. Like it just got so confusing. It was a fun time. Like honestly, like I love the fact that like somebody that listened to our podcast was like, yeah, I'm totally gonna start playing this game now. I was like, yes, more people
Yep.
to play with. And then it was funny because I was telling him, I was like, yeah, I was like, we're gonna stream and we're gonna do like an evil playthrough. And he goes, oh, awesome. He goes, yeah, he's like, definitely let me know when you're streaming because I would love to see Astarian's storyline since you guys talk about him so much. And I was like, yeah, except that one's gonna be the evil playthrough, and we don't like that version
Yeah.
of Astarian.
No, you don't like that version of Astarian.
No, nobody likes that version. Well, I mean, you like him for the wild time that he can be for like a one night stand kind of thing. You don't actually like him for long term relationships type stuff.
Here I wasn't gonna talk about the name of my cup.
I mean, I'm just being truthful. Like that's really what it comes down to. Like you like
Unseasoned chicken, Adela.
Yeah.
Flavorless chicken.
Flavorless chicken. I don't even know how we got down this rabbit hole.
But anyways, so yeah, so I was like, yeah, I was like, we're doing an evil playthrough, and that's Ascended Astarian. I'm like, we're not really fans of Ascended Astarian. Like, I don't like my biggest problem with Ascended Astarian, and yes, we are going off on an Astarian tangent per the podcast like routine here. Just my biggest problem with him and is that he repeats the cycle of abuse. And that's the hardest pill for me to swallow because the whole time, the whole journey, and without giving away too many spoilers, he's trying so hard to get away from the person that put him through all this torment and torture and trauma and just difficult and darkest moments of his life. And then all of a sudden, spoiler alert, he becomes him, if not worse, And it's just,
It's a tragic
to
ending.
me, it's a very tragic ending. And to me, Astarian deserves so much better. Like, Astarian deserves to be who he is and be able to feel that freedom, not be bound to a dark power that is all consuming of him. Because I think, and I'm pretty sure there is like a point in the game where you tell him, like, you're just trading one master for another. And that's really the truth. And it's just like, to me, I don't like Ascended Astarian because he deserves better than that. And it just breaks my heart knowing who he was before that change and then seeing what he becomes. And it's funny because like when you see all the TikTok reels where you just like see Ascended Astarian as being like really sarcastic and just kind of like debonair and it's like the rich guy mentality, yeah, he looks really appealing. But then when you see the actual full storyline of transformation and then you see what he becomes, it's 10 times more heartbreaking. And like we all know, my favorite Astarian line up until I saw Ascended Astarian was Eterna Amantis, lovers forever until the world falls down. And when I heard it from him directly for the first time, not through some TikTok reel, I damn near cried. Oops, sorry, Kuma, you're gonna have to bleep that out. But
Why
I
is it you're always the one that he
I'm
has to bleep?
always the one that he
Yeah.
has to bleep. Um, but yeah, no, I practically cried because it was such a heartbreaking thing to see how different he was compared to like how appealing TikTok can sometimes make him look. And it's just
Yeah, and
no.
my little disclaimer is there is no wrong way to play the game. Just for
Right.
people that
Yes,
are
Yeah.
true.
listening,
Yes.
it's an option for a reason, but it's
Mhm.
definitely the more it's a very tragic
Yes.
ending.
Yes. Like it's a dark ending for a reason, you
Hmm.
know. And it, because I don't like really calling it a bad ending, because technically it's not really a bad ending. It's a more dark and tragic ending, which, yeah, Red Rebecca is very right in putting it that way. But especially somebody who is a very big advocate of like mental health, and then becoming their own person and being better and moving past their trauma, and growing from the experience of getting over that trauma and becoming free of the things that haunted you in your past. It breaks my heart to see Ascended Astarian that way. And it's just like, yes, I would love for you to have that power. I just don't like what it does to you, you know? And that's very true in life too, is that as you kind of grow and as you gain power and ability, sometimes you become so consumed by it that it changes you as a person. And so it is also still a very relatable storyline. It's just, yeah, it just makes me sad. And that's why when that friend of mine now told me, well, now friend, I guess I could say, told me that he was like, yeah, I'm really excited to see your guys' playthrough. I'm like, oh, it's Ascended Astarian, I'm sorry. I'm like,
Yeah.
that is not the ending I want to
Sorry.
show you. Like,
Sorry,
but
buddy.
And I
luckily,
mean,
in huh.
I was gonna say, and I mean, I will say, like, when I was saying that you don't like Ascended Astarian, there are people out there that don't know the full range of it because of TikTok and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, those people like Ascended Astarian, and I know for a fact that people like Ascended Astarian because there are AI chats with Ascended Astarian with hundreds of thousands of users. So
Yep.
people like Ascended Astarian. But for the full storyline, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. But I will say, I still have yet to see his full storyline, good or dark. So but I feel like I know his story just because these two. So,
Yeah, yeah. No, we
Yeah.
are actually going to put a very big focus and emphasis on getting her at least her good ending with Astarion. That way, as we're doing the evil playthrough, because it'll take us a really long time to get through that since we're streaming that content, which means we're
yeah.
playing one night a week for our evil playthrough. Um, and so at that point, she'll actually get to see her good ending with Astarion. And then when we finally get to the Ascended Astarion point, she is going to be able to see the difference and she will understand why I cried.
And there's a good chance I'll cry too, so it's fine.
Yes, yeah, she will feel it. Although I am romancing Astarion in our evil playthrough, but you know, she'll live vicariously through me. It's fine.
Yes, I will.
She's
Who am I doing? I got Gail in that, don't
I
I?
think you got Gail in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Okay.
then if Red Rebecca joins us on occasion, she will probably aim for Minthara. Yeah. Which I actually got Minthara in my current Dirge playthrough.
I like
I kept
Mithara.
her alive for this one. So I kept her and Lazel alive, which are the two people I normally kill. So this is my first playthrough. I have every single recruitable companion in my party. So I'm actually really
Nice.
excited about that. Yeah,
Nice.
it'll be fun. Um, all right. Well, to wrap up this episode, guys, we hope that this tips in terms of how to find therapy really helped you kind of figure out a way to get started if you are looking for a way to get started. The other side note too is that if you are in the middle of transitioning from therapist to therapist, your therapist, if they haven't done so already, will actually give you recommendations on other therapists that will be able to help with your specific diagnosis. That is actually currently what my son is going through. He is transitioning between therapists, and his former therapist was very kind enough to actually give us recommendations. And since they've worked with them for so long, that's even a better route to go, because they're going to be able to recommend somebody they know can pick up where they had to leave off. And that actually is going to be an easier way to transition, because on top of that too, therapists are normally willing to send notes to each other as well as actually talk to each other about your specific diagnosis. So a lot of the times it alleviates a lot of the legwork from starting over. Sometimes obviously you're going to have to kind of re-explain some things, but it's not as heavy as if you were to just start from scratch. So also keep that in mind if you are in the middle of transitioning between therapists. Don't be afraid to reach out to your former therapist and ask if she can send, if she or he um can send over the notes for your new therapist, and they would be more than happy. And believe me, every therapist I have worked with is more than happy to help make that transition easy for you. And if not, then you might have to ask some deeper questions on that one. But anyways, thank
Wait,
you.
wait, wait. Hold on. I
Oh,
thought of one thing. Sorry.
go.
I thought of one more thing, one more tip, one more option to try and help you get started with therapy. You can also talk to your PCP or your primary care provider. That is an option as well.
Mm-hmm.
They can help recommend certain people or steer you in the right direction. I don't know why I didn't think of that while I was talking about it earlier, but it popped in my head and I wanted to make sure it got out here. So
Yep.
that is an option as well.
Oh, and actually, on top of that, too, check with, and I know nobody really likes talking to this specific department at your company, but check with your HR department if you have one, because
Yes.
because a lot of the times, companies also do offer a program where you can actually get a couple sessions for free, and it's actually
Yeah.
company paid for.
Yeah. Some
So
kind of employee assistance program.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So also check with that as well. I believe with military, it's a little bit different if you are on military healthcare.
Mhm.
I believe you actually have to call them and then they give you a set list of providers that they
Yep.
will cover. And so you're kind of stuck going with whatever it is that they approve and will pay for through military healthcare. But
Or
there
you pay
are
out of
options
pocket if
out
you
there.
don't go
Yeah,
with anyone
yeah.
approved. Yeah.
Yep. And so in my case, I pay out of pocket. Bugby actually goes through her insurance. And then we also have the option, since we now work at the same place, we
Yes.
also have the option of being able to go through our company, but I just preferred to find something out on my own. So, and then Miss Red Rebecca's trying to figure out her therapy journey. So,
We'll
yeah,
get
but
there.
with that, yeah, we will. And honestly, as much as we talk about it, I'm telling you right now, it's not easy, guys. Like
No,
it's not.
absolutely
We
not.
encourage it, we support it, we love that for you, but we know it's not easy. So just remember that no matter what happens, focus on you, and therapy is going to be one of the biggest ways to be able to help you do that. So don't be afraid to reach out to us either. Like if you really need help kind of just trying to figure some stuff out, like we'd be more than happy to help do some recommendations as well, like just based off of like what we found in our experiences. Like I said, we are not mental health professionals, but we are more than happy to help provide you guys some resources in order to help find a therapist that works for you. Obviously, you don't have to tell us what's going on, but we can obviously link some, important resources in how we found therapy.
Yep.
Google being number one of those resources. So, uh, but other than that, guys, we hope you enjoyed this episode, and always remember.
You are very loved.
You are never alone.
And
And
this
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 is
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 just
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 us
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 being
being
us.
being
us.
us.